Are you ready for the main event?
Yeah.
Well, Jim Ross joined again, so apparently that's going to be the recurring thing every week, and that's the perfect way to do it. Bring JR out and let him do the main event with the stars you want people to pay attention to and notice, and you get his credibility and his name value there without sticking him out there for 2 hours where he's wore out and or bored to tears by the time the thing's over with. And then we did the House of Black entrance and the FTR entrance, and then like Mussolini with barbecue, because you know they're in North Carolina, right? That Honey Gold barbecue in North Carolina. And Punk is able to come out.
That trailed off.
Well, I'm telling you, it's good. It's good stuff. You ever had the Carolina Honey Gold?
You were doing it in tune. You were trying to carry a tune, and all of a sudden you just left it.
Well, I was tired of carrying it.
All right.
Fuck, it needs to do its own work. I can't carry everybody. I'm already lugging you around.
Hey.
Punk is able to milk the cheers and the boos at the same time by doing the same thing, and it gets a completely opposite response from whoever the intended target is. I'm loving that. But for the 6-man tag team title, otherwise known to the children as the Trios Championship, it was CMFTR against the former House of Black. Because now that they're not teleporting and committing all of the spookiness of the mind games where they used to stop the match down to sit down and talk to everybody or whatever, they're wrestling. They look like 3 big, hairy, greasy, tattooed up fucking guys that's in a wrestling team. I can buy that.
I think calling them CMFTR is so stupid. I hate that they do that.
Well, they got to do all of the combined.
Why? CM Punk and FTR is too long?
Jungle Hook, you remember that?
Yeah, every team does a stupid combination. In this sense, it makes no sense because it's just initials.
CMFTR.
It's so dumb.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah. We talked about him earlier in the Podcast 1 segment.
Yes, we did. I will say, though, that Brody King still looks like Kamala if his gimmick had been an African panda bear instead of an African savage. Why? I don't. He looks big and broad and tattooed up and everything, but then he's the panda face. I'm not sure. Odd choice of the decoration. But he's working like a big man now, and Dax and the other guys, they would have to outmaneuver him and double team him to take over. And the announcers were putting over his size and power. At least they're making something legitimate out of some of these guys instead of Sockface screaming about how many times they've been to the Tokyo airport.
17 times.
17. But anyway, they went the first segment. They did some nice wrestling, some spots. They put the big guy over. Then finally they milked Malachi Black and Punk having a face-off and doing a back and forth and going to a stalemate. And then both of them sat down in the middle of the ring and stared at each other for a second. But that Punk is known for this cross-legged pipe bomb, and I guess Malachi Black sits a lot. So that got a pop, and then all 6 squared off and got a big 6-way to go to the break. And when they came back, now that they had a half an hour when this match started, when the entrances commenced, and in the WWE, you're attuned to realize that means, especially on Raw, if the main event entrances start a half an hour before the end of the program, chances are the main event will be 10 minutes. But in this case, they're starting to establish with Collision, and it's been working. They either keep their audience or increase their audience, that the main event's going to be the long match that's good with the top guys in it, that doesn't insult your intelligence, and, you know, everybody's trying to be serious. And that's what they did again here. They broke it up into like the final 3 segments, and they would get, like when they came back from the first break, they got heat on Dax. And then Dax gave the hot tag to Punk, and he made a big comeback. And he had leveled Buddy. But when he went to the top rope, Julia came up on the apron almost too quickly. You don't need to be that fucking fast, Julia. You can wait because you're only going to hop up on the apron. He's got to climb to the top rope. So wait till his fucking right foot's on the second buckle before you feel like you need to hop up. And when she did that and drew the referee, Malachi crotched Punk on the top rope, and they started heat on him. We went to the break again with Punk in jeopardy. And when we came back then, that's when Punk is selling big for the House of Black. And again, a main event wrestling match with stars, with time on the air, serious, no furniture, no flips, no gymnastics. I'm trying to do business here. And out of nowhere, Punk hits the go-to-sleep on Buddy, but Buddy rolls to the floor, so Punk can't capitalize. But he does hit the tag to Cash, and that's where the heels really let him down. Because if Buddy rolled out to the floor, one of the other heels went down to help Buddy, and Malachi, I believe, was just standing there in the corner, and they watched Punk tag Cash. No heel ever tried to stop him. Without you trying to impede the babyface's forward progress in any visual way, the pop that babyface is going to get from the tag is only going to be so far, depending on how big the star is that gets tagged anyway. Cash made a big comeback and hit the Buzz Sawyer power slam again. And then, I swear, the only one dive, but Cash hit a dive. I think there's another one coming up later, but Cash hit a dive. I think it's the first one we've seen in the program. But then he hit that bulldog off the top on Brody King for a 2 count, and that wasn't bad because it wasn't the Steiner shoulder bulldog thing. And then, boom, they did the double superplex on Brody King, and Punk came off the top with an elbow for a 2 count. That got a big pop. Then all 3 of them hit the shatter machine on the big guy, and then everybody in turn hit a big move on everybody else, and they all sold. And then this was perfect, because now they've done everything they can do. They've got him up as far as they can. Punk did the dive then on Malachi Black and bounced off of him, and he's come to rest at the barricade in front of the fans. Dax hit a diving headbutt on Brody King, got a 2 count. But right then, and the camera missed it the first time, or not the first time, the camera missed it at first when it happened live. But that may have been the plan, because it was better, because as Punk was leaning against the rail, Samoa Joe came from behind suddenly and grabbed him from the back in a rear naked choke and drew him over the barricade rail and choked him out. And they went to that shot as Joe was already on him, but then they went back to the ring because at that point Brody had lariated or hit with a lariat Cash and got the 1, 2, 3, and then they go back to the shot of Joe, leaving Punk laying there. And you got the point. The House of Black retained the belts. Joe screwed Punk over and his team over by doing that and is trying to force him to fight. And Cash got beat because the odds were suddenly against them with the removal of a member of their team. So nobody looked bad and everything made sense. So again, we had it wasn't as great as Gin and Juice for an hour, but we had a nice wrestling match with top talent for the main event of the program. Instead of Hikaru Shida against Julia or whoever.
Anna Jay. Don't put down Anna Jay.
Anna Julia.
Anna Jay.
Genitalia.
They wish they had Julia. Julia's actually good.
I thought you were going to say they wish they had genitalia.
I will say that I thought this was another great main event. I mean, look, no surprise. FTR right now are having a year. I would actually argue, look, the Briscoe matches were great, but they were different. I think they're actually having a better year this year in a lot of ways than they did last year. They just look so good in the ring right now.
Well, and also because they're getting a chance to do it this year on a program that has some level of production, whereas they were exiled last year to the Briscoes, to the Ring of Honor shows, and a small building, small crowd, and blah production, whereas with Gin and Juice, you could see that looked every bit as good as anything the WWE does from a production standpoint, but the wrestling was better.
And them and CM Punk together, I'm kind of sick of these 6-man matches, but with them at least, they give them enough time, and there's enough weird energy in the room, and they've had good opponents for these matches, that they work out well. This is the best House of Black trios match I've seen yet. I thought Buddy looked really good. Malachi Black looks really skinny to me. Tell me what you think.
He's lost some weight from the time he first came in, hasn't he?
It stood out to me, and it's the first time I thought it, so I'm saying it to you after the first time I thought it after seeing it, but he seemed rather skinny to me. But it was the best match I've seen them in. Go somewhere with the Joe Punk thing. Joe's gotten a few squash match wins.
Well, we're headed to Wembley. You can see that coming a mile away.
You can see Wembley coming a mile away, or that match coming a mile away?
Well, if Wembley's coming at you from a mile away, then you better watch out because there was a big explosion. But you can see that match for Wembley. That's, I think that's going to be done.